Hello, this is Pedro, mechanic at Curbside, and today we're going to go through how to fix a Brompton flat.
Okay, so we'll start with the tool list. You will need a 15mm wrench, a tire lever, you might need a tube in case you're not patching it, rim tape in case yours is damaged, a pump, and a set of pliers to remove the indicator rod in case it's a little stuck. First, we got to remove this knurled nut that is counter-screwed onto the barrel. Once released, you can unscrew the indicator rod from the hub. Now that it's removed, put it aside and don't lose it. Here's my trick to remove the chain from the chain tensioner without it springing back onto you. You release the clip, start folding the bike slightly, and then put it back out. We can now remove the chain tensioner and derailleur. To do so, we remove the 15mm nut from the axle. You can now remove the chain tensioner and set it aside in a safe spot. The next step is to loosen the axle nuts and move the tabs away from the frame. Let's also make sure there's no air in the tires so that you can squeeze the tire through the brake calipers. The wheel is now free from the bike and we can work on removing the tire from the rim. First, make sure again there is no air in the tire. We'll also now work the bead out of the bead seat. You can do this by pressing on the side of the tire towards the middle of the rim, as you can see here. You can now use the tire lever to pull the bead out of the rim. You're going to continue working the tire lever around to remove more of the tire. Once you got one side out, you can start working on the other one. The tire should now pop off relatively easily. I find it useful to keep the tire, the tube, and the rim all in the same orientation so you can then track what caused the puncture in the tube. After removing the tube from inside the tire, we're going to inflate it until we can hear the leak. Once you found the leak, you can find the same position on the tire and inspect the inside and the outside for any debris, glass that you should now remove.
You can definitely patch some tubes, but in this case, for this purposes, we're going to use a new one. Bromptons take a 16 by 1 3/8 tube with a straighter or a pressed valve, depending on the rim you have.
We're now ready to put it all back together. First, we start by putting some air in the tube to give it some shape. Now that the tube is ready, let's make sure we put the tire the right way round.
So inspect the tire and look for the rotation indication. So in this case, it says rotation and points forward. That shows you the direction in which the tire should be rolling. The arrow points forward. In one hand, you hold it in the direction that it would roll. And in the other hand, you bring your wheel. If it's a front wheel, you might be able to install it either way. This is a rear wheel, so you do have to put it in the right direction also for forward rolling, which in this case would mean the cogs are on the drive side, right side, and then you put in the first bead. So you can just put it on the ground and work the bead in. There you go. You can see the tire, one side is in. And you're gonna start with the valve. Push it in. There you go. You can see the tube is fully in the tire. Now there's actually a little too much air in this tube. Show you what shouldn't be happening. It should be this way, where there is going to be nothing between the tire bead and the rim, where the tube is going to be rolled and stay between the tire bead and the rim. And it should be staying there. And there you go. So I like to move the valve in a bit. You do this motion. You roll your wrist, your hand, and I like to work away from the valve. And then once you're halfway, you can turn it around. And again, just make sure the tube remember, is not going to be between the bead and the rim. Keep going around. And then this part is where it starts getting a little hard as you get closer. So what's important here is just to be patient and move the bead out of its final resting position just while we install, so that you have the space to actually work the bead over the rim. So same on this side now. I'm just gonna push the bead into the middle of the rim. So I have here, I'm gonna put my feet over it just so it stays in place. So again, come around that bead. As you can see, it makes this easy, not easy, but easier. I'm gonna do the other side again. And look at that, it's about to go. There you go. The tube isn't caught between the rim and the tire. Looks good. The other side should be good, but it's worth checking, and we're gonna check it once more once it's on the bike. But this looks good. Ready to go on the bike. Just remember not to fully inflate the tires because we do need to squeeze them past the calipers.
As you bring the wheel around, make sure to bring the chain around the cog and past the derailleur. As the axle comes into the dropout, we just gotta make sure that those tabs face the right direction with the top side facing the top of the bike. With those in place, we can now tighten the axle nuts to the frame. Using the 15mm wrench, you can tighten the axle nuts pretty tightly to the frame. We can now install the chain tensioner, making sure the pulley wheel is between the two tabs on the derailleur. We can now bring the washer, followed by the chain tensioner nut, and using the 15mm wrench, you can tighten it, but not too much since this is plastic. We can now unclip the rear triangle and move it so that you have more chain slack to put it around the tensioner. We're now ready to reinstall the indicator chain. You have to carefully push it into the axle while rotating it until it catches on the threads inside. You can screw it in until it bottoms out, but do not force it in. Once it bottoms out, you can unscrew it by half a turn. At this point, you can now screw the end of the indicator chain to the barrel.
Okay, so the indicator rod, I'm gonna manually operate it. As you can see, there's the end of the chain section. So that has to align with the end of the axle, which is a little hard to see, but you can kind of see there. It's just the end of the circle opening there. So what you want to do is you want to put it on gear number 2, which is this one. And as you can see, it's way out, which means I screwed this in way too much, which was on purpose because I prefer going this way and then just backing it out until they align. You can see it's getting closer. And there you go. So now if I go to gear 3, you can see it pulls it further. Gear 2, you can see it's perfectly aligned there. Gear 1, it's loose. Back to gear 2, and there you go.
Once you got the 3-speed adjustment set up, you can counterlock the knurled nut to the barrel. We're ready to fully inflate the tire now. Around 80 psi is what I would recommend. And give the wheel a spin, making sure it's not rubbing on the fender or on the brake pads.
And that's how you change a rear flat on a Brompton. Obviously, this was specifically for a 6-speed Brompton. This repair isn't the easiest one, and if you need any help, you can reach out to us at info@curbsidecycle.com. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like more videos like this one, like, comment, and subscribe.